Tucked away in the mistiest alley in Cathedral Ward lies one of Bloodborne's most mysterious characters, Arianna, Lady of the Night. At first glance, she stands out as one of the few people in Yharnam with a kind word to say. Little do we know at the time, there's much more to her than what lies on the surface. When we knock on her door, she immediately identifies our scent as that of a hunter.
Oh my, what a queer scent. But I'd take it over the stench of blood and beasts any day.
Very few characters notice this detail, limited to Father Gascoigne's daughter, the Oedon chapel dweller, and Queen Annalise. She works as a lady of pleasure in Yharnam. Although off during hunts, she encourages male hunters to return in the morning while curiously dismissing women, remarking that she wouldn't want to drag them down with her.
I'm off during hunts, and besides, this is no place for ladies.
Clearly, she doesn't suspect them to be clients, but that's besides the point. This leads me to believe that although she's privileged enough to live in the closed-off, upper-class borough of Cathedral Ward, it's possible that Yharnamites disrespect her profession. This wouldn't be the only reason for this. She wears the noble dress, which reads, a finely tailored Bordeaux dress, worn by the nobles of the old bloodline that traces back to the forsaken castle Cainhurst. Her gown is the signature of a Cainhurst noblewoman. Whether she was raised in the castle or simply descended from its aristocracy is unknown, but that gives us an essential detail about her origin. Had she been raised in Cainhurst, she would wear the gown as a way of indicating her noble status. She could also wear it as an heirloom, a keepsake that reminds her of who her family is. It's also possible that the attack on Cainhurst happened before she was born, and that she wasn't aware of the meaning. In that case, she might wear the dress simply because it's beautiful or to help her gain clients. Bafflingly, bottles of what appear to be blood line her doorstep. Cainhurst nobles are known to imbibe blood, making it possible that she continues that tradition. Although this is speculation, her line of work could have also been inspired by the family's culture as well. Unlike much of Bloodborne's clear homages to H.P. Lovecraftian fiction, Cainhurst's atmosphere borrows heavily from Dracula by Bram Stoker. Dracula is a monster novel on the surface, but underneath it's a statement about Western society in the Victorian era. In particular, the vampire, with its strength, confidence, and penchant for exchanging bodily fluids, is a metaphor for sexuality. With that in mind, think of the ghostly women that roam both castles. In Dracula, John Harker spies them wandering into a forbidden wing and is terrified by their predatory nature. When the fantasy element is lifted, what he's truly frightened of is their sexual autonomy. Conversely, From Software flips that on its head. In Cainhurst, the women are bound, their independence and life stripped from them against their will. In Bram Stoker's novel, Castle Dracula is a place of fear, the creatures roaming within at their prime, powerful and formidable. In Cainhurst, it's a sorrowful scene with the shades of women wandering the halls and the sound of weeping echoing in the hunter's ear. Instead of horror, it's a tragedy. This brings us back to Arianna. Found alone with hours left in the night of the hunt, without enough incense to ward off the beasts for much longer, the good hunter directs her to safety in Oedon Chapel. She quickly makes herself at home and makes a fast impression on the chapel dweller.
Thank you. So, that lady, you told her about this place? Well, she actually talks to me. Well, only now and then, and she don't mince words. But she's a kind one. I can tell. A good woman.
Kind, clever, and direct are her words to him, which runs counter to the perceptions of the other Yharnamites.
Beware the Lady of the Night. I can see it in her eyes. She deeply resents the young saint. She hears people whisper. She knows what people think of her. Yes. She despises the saint for having what she doesn't. Bloody wench, they should have moved her on ages ago.
Quite a big family now, aren't we? Though I'm afraid I seem to be the black sheep.
On even the most terrible night, she offers her thanks in form of offering blood to us. The blood itself gives us intriguing insight. Blood taken from Arianna, Cathedral Ward Woman of Pleasure. The sweet blood of Arianna restores HP and temporarily speeds stamina recovery. A member of the old healing church would know that her blood is similar indeed to precisely what was once forbidden.
But would you even take a whore's blood?
The healing church knows that she carries what they interpret as tainted blood within her. When we rescue the nun Adela, her suspicion and envy are clear as she leans jealously in our direction when we speak to her. She too can donate her blood to you, particularly referring to it as lowly.
I cannot begin to express my gratitude to you. The only thing that I can offer is my own lowly blood.
The healing church nuns are chosen for their merit as vessels for blood and groomed as blood saints. The mere chance of being treated with their blood lends legitimacy to the healing church and communion. To her, becoming close to Arianna and accepting her blood is sacrilege. The heretical scene plays out right in front of her, scraping deeply into her sense of zealotry and inferiority. If we take Arianna's blood 3 times in front of her, Adela's envy overcomes her, driving her to resort to murder. When we return to Oedon Chapel, her hands are soaked with blood. Furthermore, when the red moon descends, she loses control, fleeing outside and lying in wait to claim your life as well.
My sweet hunter. Your blood is tainted. I can't help myself. What have I done?
There is a way to spare her this fate. By not accepting her blood, she survives the descent of the red moon, although visibly affected by it. But as they say, out of the frying pan and into the fire. Doubled over in pain, she's no longer able to make an offer to you. Once Murgo's wet nurse is defeated and the menses ritual is stopped, something curious happens. Returning to the chapel, Arianna is gone, with crimson pools left in her wake. We follow the trail to discover the gruesome truth. The Lady of the Night has given birth to a celestial child, writhing slug-like on the floor while she looks on horrified.
It can't be. This is a nightmare.
If the child is killed, we find out its life is tethered to its mother as she dies along with them. Although tragic, there's no way to sever that connection. Her celestial child drops a vital item, 1/3 of an umbilical cord. Every Great One loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate, and Oedon, the formless Great One, is no different. To think it was corrupted blood that began this eldritch liaison. Oedon, whose chapel sheltered her from the terrible beasts outside, had ulterior motives all along. Under his influence, the formless Great One impregnated her against her will while the veil between men and beasts grew thin, along with it strengthening the influence of the Great Ones. Arianna, with her family connection to Cainhurst and the innate ability to bear a child of blood, is the perfect surrogate. Oedon is incorporeal and exists only as a voice. Certainly, a lone voice can hold a shocking amount of influence. It could be speculated that the chapel dweller could have been manipulated by the Great One to attract people to his domain so that he could find the perfect host. Although well-meaning, he was the one who asked the hunter to bring survivors to the place where Oedon's influence is strongest after all. Interestingly enough, upon killing the others who sought sanctuary there, some of them drop Oedon Writhe and formless Oedon runes, expressing his influence even further. Human or not, the oozing blood is the medium of the highest grade, and the essence of the formless Great One. Both Oedon and Oedon's inadvertent worshippers surreptitiously seek the precious blood. The formless Great One is no stranger to attracting people against their will to do his bidding. This brings us back to Arianna and her roots in Cainhurst. It was her forbidden blood which enabled her to bear his child. Curiously, Arianna isn't the only one from that lineage to conceive a divine baby. Queen Yarnam, one of the Thumerian founders of the bloodline, conceives Murgo. This is quite possibly also against her will, as she's often found bound and weeping. Queen Annalise, however, welcomes this conception. She accepts blood dregs in pursuit of this, a prize from hunters who slay their own kind. The Vilebloods of Cainhurst, bloodlusting hunters, see these frightful things in cold blood. They often appear in the blood of echo-fiends, that is to say, the blood of hunters. Queen Annalise partakes in these blood drag offerings so that she may one day bear the child of blood, the next Vileblood heir. Although the dregs look like sperm, she's unable to bear a child, possibly because she lives outside of a Great One's influence. Ironically, it wasn't the one who wanted to conceive who did in the end. Imagine what Arianna's gone through. If she was indeed born and raised in Cainhurst, she would have likely escaped the castle before or during the brutal attack by the executioners. The tables in the castle are set, indicating that the church attacked when it was least expected, while the family gathered together for a meal. The bridge to Cainhurst destroyed behind her, she enters Yharnam as a refugee. If this is the case, she would have received a less than warm welcome by the xenophobic townspeople. Whether or not she ever lived in the castle, she would have been seen with suspicion by the healing church, who called the blood that flowed through her veins forbidden. Because of their thirst for power and lack of hesitation to manipulate and poison the parishioners, I doubt that the Cainhurst family is as corrupt as they say. With this in mind, the blood that was brought to the castle could have even been the standard old blood that eventually made its way to Yharnam. This is all speculation, but instead of the expected beast transformation, it could have intermingled with the Queen's Thumerian DNA to cause her immortality. This would have horrified the healing church, who were vying for control by any means necessary. They likely would have felt threatened by the power of eternal life that she attained. Cainhurst nobles who took in the blood became referred to as Vilebloods and corrupt. Of course this happened. The ones who used these titles were their enemies. That being said, is Arianna a Vileblood? It's certainly possible, as her blood is referred to as forbidden and corrupted more than once, although this isn't confirmed. Interestingly, among the many NPCs we encounter in-game, the women of Cainhurst, with the exception of Maria, are among the few who don't try to kill you. The Oedon chapel dweller is even comforted by the open and frank quality of Arianna's character in particular. In the end, for all the talk of corruption, the taboo nature of her profession, and the tragic end to her life, Arianna is delightful to spend time with. Despite all the adversity in her life, she never gives in to the paranoia and rejection that runs rampant throughout Yharnam. On top of the mystery and tragedy surrounding her, her welcoming nature and sharp sincerity make her a standout character in the dark world of Bloodborne. To conclude, I wanted to give a special thanks to Richard Pilbeam, aka Jerk Sons Frontiers on YouTube, for his understanding of Oedon and what he shared in his video called Bloodborne Up Close Episode 6, Oedon. To be honest, I would have absolutely no understanding of Oedon without that video, so much of what I included in this about Oedon, his nature, who he is, and his motivations was inspired by that video. I'm gonna go ahead and link it down below for you guys because I highly, highly recommend it. Thank you so much, Richie, for that inspiration, and thank you all for watching.